Hi there, this is John from Pint Comics.
This is the other John from Pint Comics.
And we just wanted to warn you before you tune into our quite excellent show that we may or may not use, what type of term would you use for the language, John?
Swearing with flair.
Swearing with flair.
Colorful language.
Colorful language.
Or just plain out, I don't know.
Gutter talk.
Gutter talk, there we go.
You've been warned. Listen in.
Welcome to Pint Comics. This is Gary speaking.
John?
Hey.
Who the fuck's Gary?
You invited him, didn't you?
I don't know.
Who let this guy in?
Who let this guy in?
It's the Malort. It drags everybody out.
We made a bold statement a couple episodes ago. We said, if you want to be on the show, you can be on the show.
Not take it over.
Not take it over. Not do the intros. Gary, a friend of mine, decided he wanted to be on the show, and suddenly he's doing the intros before even getting...
Crazy. We can't let anybody in anymore.
No, we Gary, welcome.
Thank you very much. It's the power of Malort.
the power of Malort compels you. Look at it in that bottle right there, in its urine-colored glory, just waiting.
I'm going to have to go get the shot glasses with the skulls on it.
Oh my God! Yeah,
ready for one? You're ready for one.
I am never ready for one again. If anybody wants to see my reaction, go back through the old From the Hip archives. I think the episode might have been called, if you want to download it, Jeremy was on. I think it was Raider Bang. Was that Raider Bang?
Yeah, it was Jeremy's Raider Bang.
Yeah, there's a whole thing about...
Raider Bang with Jeremy Beardsley.
Hi, Jeremy, if you're listening to the show. Jeremy had you remember Sophie's Choice? You know, Sophie had to choose which one of her children was killed by the Nazis. Well, Jeremy was apparently at one point playing Warcraft so much that his wife basically gave him the option of either you play Warcraft or get laid. So we decided to name that episode Raider Bang. And Jeremy chose wisely.
So wisely, he now has 2 children.
2 children, yeah. Jeremy, we miss you, and we'd love to have you on again. We'll maybe get you Skyped in, or when you visit, we'll do this again on Pint Comics this time.
Pint O Comics.
Pint O Comics. Not as John, one of the last episodes when we started, John said, "Welcome to Pint of Comics." This is, by the way, his title.
I didn't have a cup of coffee.
No, he hadn't have a cup of coffee. We had to delete that. But, hey, you know what? Speaking of Pint of Comics, there is some exciting news on the Pint of Comics.
There is.
What is the news, John? Give it to us.
So apparently we're going to be on the radio.
The actual radio.
Yeah.
6,000 watts.
6,000 watts of pure airwave power.
Yes, we are. That's right. Starting, it appears to be June 4th, which is a Sunday.
Yeah, I love how it appears to be.
Well, the summer season starts on a Monday,
we're
May 29th. Sure. So we're still ironing out those details. But our show, Pint of Comics, which is an extension of the podcast, but it will be a radio show, will be on Sundays from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m.
Woohoo, 1 whole hour.
On what channel, John?
WESU 88.1
Middletown. And it's going to have a couple differences than the regular show. Potty mouth part, the gutter talk, as we described.
No swearing.
There will be no swearing. And they're not really much more different than that. It's just we'll be able to reach some more listeners.
I think more polished.
Yeah, a little more polished.
A little more polished.
Well, this is pretty polished in the end. We're just gonna, because it's edited. We're going to have to now.
Which end are you polishing, John?
I'm polishing. Middle out both ends.
There we go. Right
so
there.
Probably
just polish that right there.
Probably what we'll give the listeners a little bit of an origin. Probably I'd say December of last year. John and I.
You want to do it now? You don't want to do it on the radio?
Well, you want to do it on the radio?
We could do it on the radio. You got to listen to the radio to hear.
All right, you know what? Listen to the radio if you want to know what happened. But long story short. We are DJs now at 88.1 Wesleyan, WESU Middletown.
Expect some special guests.
And I want to say thanks real quick for the last about month. I've been interning on the Cruiser radio program with DJ Jack Sullivan. He's a really cool guy, 50s and 60s music, 9:30 p.m. to 11 on Monday nights, and through the summer, I believe it goes to midnight.
Ganache was up late.
I was up late. Oh, I was so sleepy the next morning. But you know, it was worth it. It was fun being on the radio. We had a good time. We would do sing-alongs. We sang Sweet Caroline on the air one day.
I missed that.
Oh yeah. I was in charge of the bop bop boss.
Wow.
Yeah, it was fun though. We had a good time. You did more shows. I only did one show several times, and you did.
I got bounced around a bit.
You got bounced around.
I did 2 weeks on Jim Santa Barbara, the Curator's show, the Wax Museum, which was all doo-wop and very, very specific doo-wop and a cappella groups from the late 50s and early 60s. And sometimes a little later, and actually has some of the groups that are actually performing at this point.
Really?
Yeah.
I heard some of your show. It was good.
It was fun. Jim taught me a lot.
Now
And a lot
do
of fun.
not necessarily in your wheelhouse, but what did
No.
you do that was totally out of your wheelhouse, and you were kind of in control of that show? You
Well, that was the gospel program.
John was in charge of a gospel program on the radio.
The woman that was filling in for the regular DJ, who was Minister Letitia, I guess, does this program twice a month, and it's all gospel music, and I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
But it was, again, thrown to the wolves and learned a lot there. And thank you, Denny, for doing that to me.
And if you want to hear any of these shows, I don't know how far back they go, but if you go to WESU's website, wesu.org, you can go into shows and go into archives, and you can listen to John controlling a solid hour of gospel. You could hear me singing along with Sweet Caroline, with Jack and Jimmy Z and some of the other people that were on the shows I was on.
It's good fun. The programs are good. The people there are really great. The music is great.
Yeah, they're the CDs. The CDs in this place, I mean, again, it's a radio station, but never really spent time in a radio station. It's amazing.
Thinking of which, I didn't actually go look for the soundtrack to the Transformers movie. I could have.
You got the touch. You got the power.
I'm sure it's in there somewhere. 'Cause
It probably is.
I did see a Cabbage Patch Kids LP.
LP, really?
We were selling this at the record show, so yeah. I
I
was trying to sell it all day, but I couldn't do it.
I know it's probably taken for granted for most of the people that spend time at the radio station, but I was there on day last week taking my final tests, and they put me in this room to take my tests, and in the room I'm at, there's a table, and the table is just filled with boxes of promo CDs, and it's like, you get all this, you get all this, you realize it's a radio station, but you're like, you get all this free music. How awesome is that? They've all got stickers on it saying, property of
promotion only,
property of WSU. But part of the internship and part of the work study program they have there is that you can go in and say, let me listen to these 3 CDs, and I can write a review, or I could help you sort it or whatever. That's pretty cool.
I'm going to see Flogging Molly tonight.
You are going to see Flogging Molly tonight.
It's going to be awesome.
You've been looking forward to that for a while.
Yeah, because I missed him on the last tour, which sucked. But
and you're going to see him at College Street Music Station?
Yep.
I've been there twice. That's a cool venue.
Yeah, it's good.
It's
I
a
was
cool
there
venue.
years and years and years ago when it was the Palace. So
Oh, okay.
I saw Morton Downey Jr. there.
Morton Downey Jr. from my town of Wallingford.
Was he really?
Yeah, he's from Wallingford,
No
yes.
kidding.
Yeah.
The Mouth.
The Mouth,
Morton
yeah.
Downey Jr. Yeah.
Wow.
Great. It was fun.
That was a show. God, you said that and it just snapped me right back to
Just before your time, wasn't it?
Definitely.
Gary.
He's looking a little confused. So.
We've got about maybe 5 years. I've got about 5 years on Gary. John's got about 35 years on Gary.
I'm 29.
John's always been 29. So that will be starting on June 4th, Sundays through the summer, 6:30 to 7:30. You will not only get and it's not going to affect the podcast. You're still going to get your weekly dose of the Pint on podcast form.
2 full hours.
2
of
full
Pint
hours.
Comics. 1 sweary and one clean.
Exactly. Do you like it when we say fuck, shit, and balls? Come here.
Oh, yes. What do you think brought me here?
Exactly. So if you like it when I say bitch, ass, and stuff like that, come here. If you want to hear the clean version, go to WSU.
With no mentions of Malort.
With no mentions of Malort. Nobody's doing shots. We're going to have to actually train ourselves in a lot.
Difficult.
There's going to be a lot of difficult things that we're going to have to train ourselves in. Number one is the swearing, which is easy because we've done the radio. And
Easy for me.
It's easy for me. I've done enough of the shows.
see.
I'll be okay. I'm not hitting that dump button. That dump button is frightening. There's an 8-second countdown dump button that if you say something, you've got to hit. And it brings you live immediately instead of the 8-second delay. That's frightening.
Thank you, FCC.
Yes, the FCC and a lot of the things we could talk about here, we can't talk about there. If you were a friend of ours that created something, we could bring you on the podcast and say, get out, like we've done with Geek Fever Games and some of the guys, get out there and buy their games. If we have them on the radio show, we can talk about stuff, but we can never, it's called...
They're great games.
Yeah, they're great games. We love playing them. But you can't say anything like go out and buy them because that's called the call to action. You can't do that.
It's a big difference between commercial radio and non-commercial radio.
Yeah,
so.
there's quite a few things. We can't tell you, hey, Flogging Molly's in town tonight. Get down there and get your tickets to see them. You can say Flogging Molly's in town tonight and it sounds like a great show. You got to end it there. So there's going to be a little bit of just realizing that kind of stuff. Like on Pint of Comics, I could say all day long, hey, and I'm going to say right now, go to iTunes, subscribe, download our old episodes, check us out. There, we got to be a little more careful. We could say, hey, we're on here at 6:30 to 7:30 every Sunday, but I can't go tune in every week. So there's a lot
We
of...
also have a podcast.
Yeah,
I think that's about as good as we can say.
Yeah, we can tell you we have a
maybe once an
podcast.
hour.
I don't think we can address people to it. That's kind of frightening.
No free plugs.
No free plugs. But that's what this is for, motherfucker. Oh, and saying that stuff too. I got to get it out. Free plug. So if you ever want a free plug, get on the show. We'll plug whatever you want.
Do it. Do it now.
Do it now. So Gary, we brought you on the show because what did you do? You on our second episode we discussed.
You discussed G.I. Joe. Embarrassingly.
Gary, do you want to tell people maybe a little bit about yourself in terms of your level of fandoms on certain things?
I am a typical child of the 80s. I grew up in the 80s and 90s, came of age in the 90s, but I was totally a kid in the 80s. I'm a big fan of 80s properties, G.I. Joe, Transformers, Mask, and, some other ones like Jayce and the Wheeled Warriors or something.
I've got another fan.
Starcom. It's stuff like that, and I grew up with that, and that's what I played with. And now I am of the age where I have disposable income to blow it on stupid stuff, on stupid toys, and making other people that are very close to me very verklempt or confused or you need to pay a mortgage.
Are you trying to say that your wife is like, why did you buy another USS Flag?
Why did you have to bring that up? Because I am looking at another one.
How many? Now the USS Flag we've discussed many times on not only this show but on prior shows is the awesome G.I. Joe aircraft carrier, which I had as a kid. How many do you have now?
I have one. It came all the way from Alaska. I bought it off of a guy on Facebook. It came all the way from Alaska.
Wow. Now, Gary, you're a big G.I. Joe collector. I just wanted to ask you, this is just, out of all the G.I. Joe figures you've ever purchased, if you bought a lot of figures from one person, whose were the most pristine, oldest figures that you've ever purchased from someone?
It would have to be you, Johnny Ganache.
That is awesome. Yes, I sold Gary my remaining figures. Maybe 50 in there?
About 30.
30, okay, 30.
And it was very disheartening to hear that. It was like, I need money for Comic-Con, so I'm going to sell my toys.
It was a two-way street. Yes, I needed money for Comic-Con, but it was also I wasn't going to keep them. So and then talking to you over the last couple of years at the comic shop, I went, this is the guy that's going to want to buy them.
Well, we're like 2 of the 3 people that subscribe to G.I. Joe through the poll box.
Yeah, although not anymore because that last G.I. Joe series or the one that's currently going.
I will honestly agree with you. That is the worst G.I. Joe comic they're currently offering.
Yeah.
Revolutionaries by IDW is a better G.I. Joe book. Mask is a better G.I. Joe book, and G.I. Joe only guest stars in that.
It was terrible.
So I have to ask you, because I don't read G.I. Joe now, but I read it up through the Devil's Due run and into the very early parts of the IDW before they brought Larry Hama back and reinstated the Marvel timeline. Did you like the stuff that Devil's Due did? Wow, that's Devil's Due did.
DDD.
Yeah, the Devil's Due stuff, in retrospect, come to recall, is like it sounds more of like a fanboy writing rather than somebody that really wanted to take the property seriously.
I could see that. In the very beginning of it was a little rough. Towards the tail end of the run, which was really great, and it took from the Marvel series. It went exactly from the Marvel series and continued that timeline. So the characters that were dead, like Quick Kick, were dead.
Did he die from frostbite?
He got a bullet to the head or something.
Oh, jeez.
Yes, thank you, Larry Hama, for using the Saw Viper and putting a bullet to the head.
Killed a whole bunch of Joes back then. You missed that, didn't you?
Yeah, no, I didn't read that
What
stuff.
a shame. Okay.
So
that series went on, and that's when Cobra nuked Boston, did all kinds of crazy
Well, I know
stuff.
you've got a big...
I loved it. It was great.
I know your
And-
nipples get hard when you talk about the World War III storyline.
Yes,
right?
it's awesome. It was great.
Yeah, that was possibly like the best thing Devil's Due did. Up until that, it's like I said, it reads like a fanboy wrote it.
And that's true, because there are parts of it, like you read it, and there's when they killed Hawk, I think.
I thought they only paralyzed him.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so he was paralyzed, but they thought he was dead.
Gary's
comes
kung
back.
fu. Gary's kung fu is too strong for us.
It's been a while. It's
Hawk
been in
became
storage.
Professor Xavier of the G.I. Joe team.
They had to bring out Joel Colton again.
Wow.
Like I said, they did a lot of things. They even resurrected Serpentor and made Serpentor a general who became the leader of the Joe team.
Wow, even John doesn't know that.
I remember that.
Yeah, okay. I am a G.I. Joe nerd.
Yeah, that's right. I remember.
See what Malort will do to your memory after a while,
Not
Gary.
that. It's called 72 hours of work every week, waking up at different hours, not having coffee today.
Getting stuck in Utica, New York overnight. We won't discuss that. All right, so we're gonna talk about a whole bunch of stuff. We're obviously on G.I. Joe right now. The reason we kind of brought Gary aboard was Gary called us out on our bullshit, as he said.
Yeah, let's get this over with first.
What was it that what you called us out on specifically?
Let's see. Barbecue was a flamethrower with a dog.
Yeah, barbecue was as you had told us before. He was the
He's a firefighter.
He's the firefighter who wore the full mask helmet type thing.
Looks almost like a Cylon from Battlestar.
Yes. In those
in orange.
In those videos where they make fun of the PSAs from G.I. Joe. What were those called again?
They're not really called anything, but they were produced by some fan called Fensler, and he named them Fensler Films, and they were parodies, and that's where we got the long-running joke now: pork chop sandwiches.
Pork chop sandwiches and body massage with Roadblock.
You want a body massage? How about a body massage?
But one of my favorites is barbecue, and he talks like a robot. What the kid's like, what the fuck? And the other one I love is the dubstep one. Is a dubstep with Doc. He's a him minute. He's like, those. If you've never seen those are awesome. They're really funny.
I watched those with my 2-year-old about 2 weeks ago, just on a lark. We were watching children's nursery rhymes. I'm like, I need a break from this, and I put on, and somebody edited them all together into one long YouTube video, and it was great. My kid was transfixed for 13 minutes while he folded laundry.
See the little things you get to do when you're an adult and you got to figure stuff out. So you're wearing now. You mentioned this to me. Now this goes to show I was a G.I. Joe fan, but it goes to show the age difference a little bit. You said you're wearing a G.I. Joe shirt today, which I had no clue was a G.I. Joe shirt. Explain to me what Night Force is.
Night Force is the sub-line from Toys R Us. It was 1988 and 1989. They basically redecoed bright, garish characters in night garb, and they actually look really nice. It's actually a really cool subline. It's very valuable. Well, it's very expensive now because a lot of people like it. You know, characters are just in gray and black. You know, a character called Psych Out. Really, what? John's laughing because he knows what I'm talking about. This character is a kind of like an oddball for G.I. Joe, but this is where the line was going in 1987, and they made him gray and black, so he looks acceptable instead of just like, what the F, Hasbro? What are you forcing down my 7-year-old child's throats?
There were some really bad characters back then.
Yeah, we mentioned.
Did you miss that?
Yeah, I would almost say that my fandom at least ended probably 86, 87. Probably 11, 12 years old, you know, in my mind, getting too old for toys or whatever. And like I had the flag. I loved the flag. That was probably the last big thing I ever had because I think we've talked about it on the show before, but like one of the other big sets was the space shuttle. That giant, what was that called?
The Defiant Space Complex.
I was way gone before that ever came
That's
out.
actually a really cool playset. I don't own one. But
so if anybody has one, contact us here at pintocomics.com and we'll set you up with Gary.
Yes, please. My wife loves seeing money coming out of our checking account.
Well, remember, you're the one that was on here going disposable income and just making it rain to G.I. Joe sellers everywhere.
I snuck in a Terrordrome. By the way, snuck in means she saw it.
Oh, she saw it?
That was definitely a cool purchase.
Was the Terrordrome after the flag or before?
It was the next year.
Okay, because I never had the Terrordrome either. So it must have been whatever year that was is where I got out.
Yeah, that was 86. 87 was when they did the G.I. Joe movie, and then they introduced Cobra La.
Yeah, you know, Cobra La I'm familiar with from...
Don't kill Duke!
From hearing about it, but I was done with the stories at that point.
Yeah, don't kill Duke because they killed Optimus Prime.
Quite well.
Yeah, but they brought Optimus Prime back as Rodimus, right?
No.
Hot Rod?
No.
No? Didn't...
Different character.
Was it a different character?
It's a different character.
Was Megatron Galvatron?
Sort of, yes.
But Optimus Prime was not Rodimus Prime?
No. Rodimus Prime comes from Hot Rod.
Okay.
So the Prime is part of the Matrix. You know,
Yeah.
you become Prime when you get the Matrix. Although that was instituted much after. That was actually from the movie rather than the comic series.
The movie I remember seeing, the movie was Orson Welles as Unicron.
And wheel him into the microphone. They wheel him in. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Okay, Orson, now, can you say this line?
I'll do it for a pizza.
I'm Unicron. And then they'd have to edit it because they couldn't understand what he was saying. He had too many peas in his mouth.
No, I don't think Orson Welles was filling himself up on peas. I remember Orson
He was
Welles.
almost dead. That was his last role.
I remember Orson. See, everybody remembers Orson Welles. You know, obviously.
Everybody remembers Orson Welles.
Well, no, I mean,
Everybody older than you remembers.
Of our age range, I think everybody remembers Orson Welles or prior as the War of the Worlds guy. To me, he was. I'm talking about prior. I'm talking about older age range. To me, Orson Welles was always the Dark Tower guy. Remember the Dark Tower? I know you said you have one.
I have one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have
He
one.
did the commercials for the Dark
That's
Tower.
right, he did. And I have it for sale if anybody wants to buy it.
Hey, look at that. PintoComics.com. If you're looking for a copy
It's
of
not
the
Pinto. Stop that.
PintoComics.com with no apostrophe, you can go there. You can go
Go there. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, not yet. We're pintocomics@gmail.com. You can send us a line and you can buy John's toy from him.
Yeah. Make sure it's a worthy price.
Yeah, he wants several $1,000s for the Dark Tower.
Sure I do. Okay.
It's probably worth it, right? That thing was
No, it's worth about 500.
Nice.
Give or take. My copy, I probably get 250, 300.
Did you know what the Dark Tower is, Gary?
That's a little before my time.
Yeah, this was
not
81, 82. It was a mechanized board game.
No, it's not mechanized. It's an electronic board game. So it has a computer with the tower in the center of the board.
Okay, now I recall it. My in-laws had one,
Okay.
and it was like absolutely in amazing condition, still worked. And they're like, Gary, do you want this? And I said, no. They're like, can you sell it for us? And I said, okay. $250 later on eBay. It was gone.
Yeah, Orson Welles, the giant pea slurping Orson Welles. Yeah, that sounded gross. Not urine, by the way. Orson Welles might have been into golden showers. I don't know, but I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna go with Rosebud. It was Rosebud. Now pee on me.
Touch of evil right here.
Yeah. Well, he was at the end of his days, and he did the commercials for the Dark Tower a couple years before he did the voice of Unicron on the Transformers movie. Sorry, Orson Welles, I mean nothing by that. We made fun of Corey Haim on a previous episode. We're gonna have to stay away from the dead celebrities. It's just not nice.
Stick to Bobby Heenan.
Stick to Bobby Heenan. He's still alive at least. At least when you said terrible things about him on From the Hip, he was still alive. Now, I'm going to ask you about this because I remember the name, but I wasn't a fan. And John got very excited when you brought it up. Jayce and the Wheeled Warriors.
Oh, I love that show.
Yes, what about it?
What was it? What was the concept behind that?
I don't really remember the cartoon. I just had a couple of the toys. It was just like these mechanized toys with the good guys and these like semi-living creature vehicle hybrids were the bad guys.
John, do you want to give us the names of these creatures? Do you remember?
Oh god, let me see if I can remember. It was Sawboss was the leader of them, but the whole concept of the show was basically machines versus plants. So the plants were evil and the machines were good. So figure that one out.
Really?
Only a product of the 1980s.
Very true. And the show was really good. It was animated really well. It had some really cool concepts. In retrospect, it's very kiddish, but people died in that show.
And this was what, mid 80s, late 80s?
Late 88 maybe?
Yeah.
I have it on disc.
Huh, really?
The first season anyway. Yeah.
How many seasons did it go?
Yeah, I think it was 2.5 to 3.
Really?
Yeah, and I don't know if the third season was ever released on DVD. The sales on the DVDs were pretty lame, so.
You know, I had one.
Shout Factory, man, they got everything.
Yeah, Shout Factory's pretty good. I had one. I had one. I don't know if you remember this.
You don't have any Jayce?
No.
Had the best rockin' theme song?
No.
Oh, it was awesome.
I don't remember that.
And a Han Solo sort of kind of character.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
No.
Yeah, it was great.
I don't know if it was just when I got out of all that stuff, I was just out of it totally.
Jayce was hot.
Was Jayce hot?
Jayce was hot.
He was your boy crush?
He had the dyed hair in the middle, and he had that whole good guy thing going, the Luke Skywalker, I'm the hero thing.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
The name is
hot.
totally familiar, but like, if you can't tell, we're gonna put a picture of Jayce from Jayce and the Warriors up, and we want to.
I think I have one somewhere.
We want to have you guys poll on whether or not you think he's as cartoon hot as John says. There is cartoon hot. I mean, we know this. We discussed prior.
We've got Sabine from Star Wars Rebels.
Star Wars. Do you watch Star Wars
Probably the
Rebels?
hottest cartoon ever.
No, I haven't really been able to watch cartoons lately.
Yeah, Star Wars Rebels is quite a good cartoon.
Between her and Lana from Archer, you've got.
I don't watch Archer.
That's too bad.
Is she?
You're
Yeah,
missing out.
is that the one that is Aisha Taylor or Tyler?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I've seen bits of it, and I know that she's a character.
Yeah.
I just don't know much about her. But
Shame on you.
Sabine's kind of a hot cartoon. I will even admit that.
I'm more of a Cheryl Tunt man.
Oh boy.
Cheryl Tunt says Archer.
Yeah, Archer, you really should watch it.
Okay.
Up until this season. This season's kind of slow.
All right, so every now and again the show goes on a little twist.
I know at one point it became like Miami Vice, right?
Yeah, and I didn't like that season. This season I think is much better because it's just total fantasy, and it's all in Archer's head, which is awesome.
And it's like a private detective noir thing.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird, but it's fun because it won't be long before he comes out of it and we get back to the normal stuff.
Hey, you know what? That's good though. If you can change up your show, have it work.
Anytime The guy it's in his head. So one of the female characters he sees as male in his own head. So there's a 3-parter called The Sea Tunt where you meet her brother.
Yeah, it's just I got to make the time to watch this stuff. But I am watching Rebels. I'm enjoying that.
Stop watching NCIS.
I don't watch any of that stuff.
And get back into
No,
the
I don't watch any of that stuff.
Sure.
I don't. I have never watched
Order.
a full episode. No. Law and Order, I did. The only Law and Order I ever liked was the one that D'Onofrio was on because I liked him. Bam, 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 bam.
So just imagine this, Law and Order starring the characters from G.I. Joe.
Oh, ooh, Doc and
Who wants a body massage?
body massage. Roadblock down in the corner of Broadway and 9th. We need a body massage.
So who would be Ice-T? That would be either Stalker.
Yeah,
or
Ice-T would be Stalker. Yeah.
No, that was a good character. That's something you got to look at G.I. Joe 2 for. Is it's a multi-ethnic background of all the characters, and it's just because it's military, I think, military-based. Take away Scarlet and her hot bodysuit and whatever the hell she was wearing there, the arm crossbows and weird crap like that. But every character had some kind of ethnic background in the beginning.
Yeah, well, that's
why
right.
They did spread it out a little bit, but once you got into the characters that had full face helmets and stuff, you didn't know them anymore.
One of my favorite things of the toy line, even as a kid,
Unless I'm wrong.
was the files. I love the file cards in the back, which were all written by.
They were mostly written by Larry Hama until 88 or 89. And I guess he had to take a break because at that point I think he picked up Wolverine. Hasbro executives wrote like a bunch of cards, and you could tell by the style. Larry would always make sure in every profile there was a detriment listed. Like Ace was a addicted poker player. He wasn't called Ace because he kept shooting down planes. He called him Ace because he kept winning at poker. And Snowjob was a con man.
Right.
And so, I mean, these guys all had detriments. And then you go up until 88, 89, and you start reading these. These guys are like superheroes. There's no detriments. And the key thing is they're all from Rhode Island. Yes, the 1988, 1989 G.I. Joe team is all from Rhode Island. Rhode Island produces the best American heroes.
No, it's
that's something I never knew. I think about like the earliest of the characters where you've got Clutch and Rock and Roll.
Rock and Roll. Who was the late Flash? Laser Soldier Flash.
Flash. We were going over that. And Tripwire and Zap.
Who was the Mortar Soldier?
Breaker.
Short Fuse.
Short Fuse.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's who we couldn't remember.
Yes, Short Fuse.
Yeah.
A lot of those guys were based off of Larry Hama's personal connections with people from the military all the way through comics at that point.
Were the names made up, or were they based on real people?
Made up, but the profiles were based on real people.
All right, well, here's a trivia question for you. I'm not going to ask Gary. I'm going to ask you, see if you know. Who? I only know this from I knew it as a kid, but I researched
I can feel my sphincter clenching now.
Which G.I. Joe's real name is MacArthur S. Ito?
I actually did know that at one point. If you're going to say Quick Kick, I'm going to kick you.
I'm going to say Quick Kick.
Quick Kick you right in the nuts.
It is Quick Kick. Quick Kick, our resident favorite G.I. Joe character here at Pint of Comics.
MacArthur.
Yeah. Well, he was named after the general, I believe, right? Isn't that what they said in the file? It's just.
Do you have this file somewhere stashed away, hanging on?
You know what?
Is it on the visor of your car?
Nope. When I was a kid, though, I cut them all out, and I had them rubber banded together. If I ever find them, I'll give them all to Gary as part of the deal. I don't think we're ever going to find them. I don't think they probably disintegrated in my parents' basement, but I did. I used to cut every one of them out. I kept them.
My mom threw them away.
My parents didn't do that. My parents I give them credit. They were very cool about that stuff. I found the G.I. Joes that I sold Gary probably 2 years prior to the time I sold them in my parents' basement. I was down there looking for something. I'm digging through boxes, and I open up this action figure case, and I'm like, holy shit, that's Tomax. That's Zaymot.
Now, was it an actual G.I. Joe action figure holder?
No, it was this little camouflage.
Because they did make those.
The G.I. Joes that you would get at like Walgreens, like the Action Force Heroes. That's what it was. We're talking 80s, and we're talking all the G.I. Joe stuff. This happened to me 3 or 4 years ago at Boston Comic Con. I was leaving Boston Comic Con. The last booth I looked at was a toy vendor, and he had some figures lined up. And have you ever seen something from your childhood that you haven't seen since your childhood, and it makes you feel like you time travel immediately?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
This is something I had not thought about since I was probably 6 or 7 years old. They precursed G.I. Joe figures, which came out, 83? They were smaller, they were metal. Eagle Force. Have you ever heard of Eagle Force?
Only because you're mentioning it. No.
I think I mentioned it to you prior.
I vaguely recall this.
These
They
were
were heavy duty,
heavy-
though, and they
heavy-
would fall apart because they were so heavy.
I think so.
Yeah.
Heavy, littler metal figures. It was a heroic military force versus their Cobra, whatever it was called, and they produced them for several years. And I remember one of the reasons I love them, and I'll find it online and I'll put a picture on the Facebook page, is because the cards. They would draw them in a comic book style, the character, and then they had the bubble, the blister package, and the figure in there. And I had just about all of them. And then when G.I. Joe came out, G.I. Joe was the new hotness in 1983. I jumped right on that. Eagle Force. And funnily enough, when I was kind of researching this a couple weeks ago, someone, I don't know if it was a fan or whatnot, started a Kickstarter, and they got funded. They're making Eagle Force figures in the 3 3/4 plastic G.I. Joe style now. So you could find them and buy them, but it's just... It's crazy. They wore like the G.I. Joe, mostly the original figures were in like the camo green. The Eagle Force guys were more of a beige colored desert garb. But yeah, they had these things for a couple years there, probably 81, 82.
I don't remember them very well.
Yeah,
but
I'm gonna put.
I vaguely remember them too.
When I saw them, I immediately thought, "Holy crap!" I felt like I traveled back in time. It was amazing.
So Gary, do you have a favorite G.I. Joe member?
How can I choose?
Go male and female,
Yeah, there
and
you
pick
go.
each side. You could do Cobra too.
Oh, wow. So I get to 4. Well, obviously the best female bat is the Baroness. I don't think there's any red-blooded American male that would choose otherwise.
Yeah.
And she did have the hots for old Chrome Dome Destro, who is actually pretty cool. I like him better than Cobra Commander. I'll put him at the top of my Cobra Man. Definitely.
Well, do you consider Destro a Cobra?
You kind of have to.
I mean, I know he was aligned with them, but he was also, selling them arms, and he was his own thing.
This is one where the G.I. Joe movie from early 2000, the first G.I. Joe live action movie, actually did a really good job with Destro in a character building and just making like he plays both sides. He doesn't care who buys his weapons. He's a warmonger. He just wants to sell his weapons, and he doesn't care. He'll watch the world burn. And Larry kind of touched on that a little bit in the comic, but I actually have to say the Destro in the Rise of Cobra movie was actually written really well, like the characterization that they wanted
Well,
for him.
you can't say in the second movie because he has no lines, and all he's in a tube, and Cobra Commander goes, "Destro, you could sit this one out," and they leave him in that prison. Probably because they couldn't afford Christopher Eccleston again, or he didn't want to do it, and they're like, just forget it.
Leave me, don't leave me.
Don't leave me here. So
They did blow up the prison too.
They did blow, yeah. So he might be dead. So okay. So you're gonna say Baroness and the Destro, and so Joe's. And here's a caveat with the Joes: you can't say Snake Eyes because everybody knows you're gonna say Snake Eyes, or I think you'd probably say Snake Eyes. Let's leave Snake Eyes off the table.
All right, my favorite Joe then. Not counting Snake Eyes. Actually, this was the first one I got a sketch of. Was Rock and Roll. I got Robert Atkins, who I love, and I don't think the comic industry uses him enough.
Robert Atkins is awesome.
I had him sketch me a Rock and Roll, and he did an amazing job. And then, of course, for the female, we'll just go with Scarlet.
John, give us yours.
Females. Let's think about the females on the side of Cobra here for a second. You've got the Baroness, and you've got the Baroness.
Yeah, there aren't a lot, are there?
Zorana, Dreadnought.
I don't count the Dreadnoughts because they're similar to the Desperate, but they're on their own. The Dreadnoughts do their own damn thing.
Well, we can go deep cuts and go to comic book, and there's always Amanda Knox.
Could.
All right, you're going to go with the Baroness.
So basically, the only girls on Cobra side are Major Blood and the Baroness. So.
You didn't like Major Blood?
Poor Major Blood.
He was a mercenary, though. He really wasn't Cobra either.
And he was a poet.
Yeah.
It never showed the cartoon.
I always pictured
the voice talent they did for him was so annoying.
I always pictured
that was kind of the point, I think.
When the Major Blood figure, I could always picture Charles Bronson playing that character if they made a live action movie. It almost looked like they, the mustache and just the kind of general look.
And I'll say this too for the comic book series, the Devils Do Run towards the end there. They did make Major Blood a viable villain again, finally.
Yeah.
Because you start thinking about it when they were rebuilding Cobra. Remember Major Blood? Because no one remembered Major Blood.
I remember him as a character.
Well, that was the whole point in the comics, that he'd gotten just pushed aside to the point where no one remembered he was even a member of Cobra. There he was, and he was a pretty good threat.
So is Major Blood your pick for favorite Cobra male?
No, favorite Cobra female.
I'm sorry. I forgot. Yeah, you said.
No, the Baroness was awesome. You just can't beat the Baroness.
No.
But as far as villains, at least on Cobra side, I don't know. That's a tough one because there aren't that many named ones. Because you get to you've got Destro, and you've got Zartan, and then you got Dr. Mindbender, the moron. And then you got Wild Weasel.
Wild Weasel, yeah.
So those are great characters. But no, I love Cobra Commander. I just love the look.
Do you prefer Dome Cobra Commander or Hood Cobra Commander?
I like the dome. The dome thing really just has this impressive look to it.
Yeah,
The
I
hood,
agree.
I get the reason for the hood because, man, you're going to get all steamed up in that thing. So.
So
I imagine he had bad acne.
So Joe's, who are your favorite Joes?
Oh, come on, Zap is the best.
Zap, okay.
Zap is always the best.
And female?
Scarlet was fine. I hate Lady J, so we're going to go with CoverGirl.
CoverGirl.
Because no one remembers CoverGirl.
Yeah, I remember.
No, wait,
CoverGirl.
no, we'll go with Jinx. No, wait.
All right, well, I'll give my picks.
Lady Doc or Lady Breaker.
Lady Breaker. My pick for favorite female Cobra would go with the Baroness because she's super hot. Favorite Cobra character, I'd almost say my favorite Cobra. I would want to say Storm Shadow, but again, I'm gonna disqualify him because he's not so much Cobra. He plays both sides in a lot of ways, and I always like Firefly. Well, I like the look of Firefly a lot. That gray and black camo.
Now, there's a mercenary if ever there was one.
Yeah.
And that's another character they really increased the volatility of in the comic book series towards the end.
Yeah, they made him one of the main villains in the last movie. They actually threw him in there.
I didn't watch that one.
Yeah, it wasn't great, but it was.
Well, neither was the first one.
No, but it was,
I think as Brian has said in the past, Brian Scavera, how you doing? That G.I. Joe was one of the worst movies he's ever seen.
They definitely seemed to try to correct the course in the second movie, and they just, I don't know, it wasn't. Yeah, I watched it a few weeks ago for the first time in a long time, and it doesn't work so well.
It's still better than the first live action movie, but yeah, it doesn't. It's almost like it was written by a bunch of suits trying too hard to cater to we got to get this new millennial market because the millennials now they're using their fidget spinners. Are at that point they were still in high school and they're just trying to get that. They're just trying to get that high schooler money, and there are a bunch of suits. Not one person has kids among them. They're like, well, how do we make a 50-year-old toy relevant again? And and they just try too hard.
Yeah.
And it's just you could read into it. It's like you look at what they did. They got The Rock. It's like you have a failing franchise like Fast and Furious, you get The Rock. You have a movie like Baywatch coming out, you get The Rock.
Definitely a franchise guy. He's definitely a franchise guy. I felt the biggest problem with that second movie for me was it was very light on plot, and it seemed like it seemed like it was two different movies. There's the stuff going on with Roadblock and Flint and Lady J, and then you're on the other side of the world with Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow. I don't know.
Lady J, you want a body massage?
Lady J, body massage.
Don't pay attention to Flint.
The actor who plays Flint, by the way, if you don't know this, from Wallingford, Connecticut. Yeah. Yep.
And who is he? Because you're telling me this, I'm like, I don't.
He's from the town I live in.
So you know where he's from, but you don't know his name.
Catrona. Something Catrona. I can't remember it. But he's from Wallingford.
Fucking lame.
Yeah.
Look it up. You got a phone?
No, my phone's over there, so it doesn't make that noise when we're recording, asshole. Like yours does.
Mine doesn't do anything. Literally.
Gary, were you a fan of Masters of the Universe?
Oh, that's a good one.
That was, yeah, I really was. When I was a kid, I loved Masters of the Universe, the cartoon. And actually,
I have the power!
He-Man.
Did you like Skeletor? Were you a Skeletor guy?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
I never was able to get a Skeletor for whatever reason. When I had the toys, I had Battle Damage He-Man and
Battle Damage He-Man's one of my favorite figures ever.
Yeah,
with the barrel in the chest.
With the barrel in the chest, and you keep
hit it, and it would spin from. He was wearing a silver chest plate, and he had a barrel in the chest, but you couldn't tell it was a barrel so much, and it looked whole. And then you would smack it once, and it would roll, and it would have a slash across it. You'd smack it again, it would roll again, 2 slashes. It might have gone to 3 slashes.
No, only 2 slashes. Okay. I remember that vividly because that was one of my favorite toys as a kid.
And then you would just wheel it back and go
use
back
your thumb like a thumb wheel.
Use your thumb like a thumb wheel and go, okay, He-Man, you're okay now. You're okay. You turn back to Prince Adam and back to He-Man and whatever the fuck happens when you do that.
Prince Adam, the milquetoast.
Yeah, he was a milquetoast. He wore a purple fucking cardigan. No wonder he needed to turn to He-Man. He was gonna get his ass kicked on Eternia. When you have characters like Trapjaw hanging out, you don't want to wear a purple cardigan.
Beastman. So
Beastman.
Have either of you
Stinkor?
Have either of you seen the He-Man Christmas special?
No.
No.
Didn't even know there was one.
Oh, it's fantastically bad.
Is there Christmas on Eternia?
Well, that's the point.
He's bringing Christmas to Eternia?
2 kids from Earth get transported to Eternia, and it's during Christmas time, or is it the other way around? I forget. It's just this whole weird twisted Earth or Eternia, and then the whole thing with She-Ra and Hordak, because that's them
Hordak,
too.
yeah.
So you get She-Ra and Hordak and two kids and their puppy trying to explain Christmas to Skeletor. It's one of the most surreal and hysterical things you have to see. Like the puppy wants to be held, so the kids make Skeletor hold the puppy, and the thing is yapping at him. He's like, I don't like puppies. Oh, it's licking me. It's just so bad.
Give the dog a bone, Skeletor.
Does Skeletor's heart grow 3 times?
I
the
don't
size?
like Christmas. No, it's just.
Oh,
Does the puppy start humping Skeletor's leg?
You have to see it.
Really? I've never even heard
It's
of this.
hysterical. I mean, and then you know, it's the whole He-Man thing, walking around in a loincloth in wintertime, and it's just.
Now, many people remember the live-action Dolph Lundgren Masters of the Universe movie.
I saw it in the theater.
I did too, but did you see in the theaters? I saw this in the theaters. Did you see the He-Man She-Ra movie? Do you remember that when they did a cartoon?
I did not see that in the movie. No, in
Yeah.
the theaters. I mean, because at that point, She-Ra was just a little too much for me.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, well, the Princess of Power.
Princess of Power.
I grew up right above the Middletown movie house, so on weekends, my parents,
Like right above the building, or
No, like behind
just
it.
up the hill,
Up the hill.
behind.
Yeah,
it?
I lived right above it. I was 11 years old. I lived in an attic of a movie theater. My parents didn't love me.
You're like Hugo.
Yeah, so I saw all the movies. Well, me and my friends, my parents would give us, I know this sounds old, but they'd give us like $3, and we'd go to the movies and get a soda and a Snickers. And
Remember when they were $3?
yeah, and we would go.
Scary.
We would go. I probably saw the He-Man She-Ra movie like 4 times because we would just go every weekend. Go on a Saturday, go the next Saturday, go the next Saturday. And back then, movies played longer than they do now. I remember the summer Back to the Future came out. I think I saw it like 7 times. We just Ghostbusters went back and back and back. The He-Man She-Ra movie. I was talking to somebody else who was a fan, and they're like, there was no theatrical movie. I'm like, there absolutely was. I think it might have just been a few episodes strung together and they released it that way, but it was in the theaters.
That I don't remember, but I do remember it got released into theaters. Yeah, it didn't last long. Though.
No.
But what'd you see it 6, 7, 8 times?
Nah, like 3 times maybe.
You were like Vinny going to see Star Wars.
No.
Star Wars: The Force Awakens. I'm only going to see it once.
Yeah, he saw 7 times or something like that.
You have to call up and find out.
Yeah,
we
we
played.
played
How many times you saw Rogue One?
we played movie buff at my house last night, and Force Awakens came up, and Lou's a big fan, so he got all wet over that. we had a good time, but yeah. And then we played.
Did you start with John Candy quotes? Or
I
not?
did not. I didn't see that till later. He sent me a text saying that. Okay, so Masters of the Universe. Let's do some deep cuts. Let's see if you guys remember some of the ones that I was a fan of. Does anybody here remember? I only remember characters. I don't remember any of the plot. Silverhawks.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
You do. Silverhawks, the only thing I remember about Silverhawks was the figures were cool. You would like squeeze the legs together and the wings would pop out. And then there was the one character I remember particularly with the cowboy hat who had a guitar that would shoot laser beams out of it. Do you remember the names?
No, I don't. But I remember the guitar cowboy.
Yeah.
Precursor to the Doof Warrior.
The Doof Warrior from Mad Max: The Fury Road. Did you ever have any of these figures, or was this just...
I didn't get the figures, but I did watch the cartoon. I remember watching the cartoon as a kid.
So Silverhawks, that's about all I remember of that. Obviously, we have...
Here's what I remember the Silverhawks. It was created by the same people that did Thundercats.
That's what I was going to say. I think it was...
the same animation style.
Yes.
And pretty much the same voice cast. Fucking shitty.
Yeah, Thundercats was way better. And
Fucking shitty. It was so bad I couldn't even make it through a week of watching that shit.
I had the toys. I definitely was into it. I'm not going to lie.
Well, yeah, because, you're Ganache.
I'm Ganache. I enjoy stuff like that. You know what else I had?
Speed 2, the cartoon.
Do you know what else I really enjoyed? See if you guys remember this. There was even a Marvel comic of this. I think it was short-lived. Sectowers. You remember Sectowers?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, the insect men, women hybrids that would ride giant beetles. And
You remember the Visionaries then?
oh, the Visionaries. They were clear and they would light up, right? Like they had.
Well, they had like it was like a futuristic night Camelot situation. And,
Yes.
And their chest plate would basically light up like the Care Bears.
Yes.
And
Care Bears there.
They would get their power from whatever their chest plate was.
Yeah, Gary's thinking. We'll let him think.
Strawberry shortcake over here.
Do you guys remember
Not strawberry shortcake. Remember the shirt tails?
Yeah.
that? I do not remember. I know I've heard of it.
It was like they were animals, right? Mostly animals.
Yes, they were animals, and they all had like T-shirts.
And the shirts would light up.
They would make anything. Cocaine was a serious drug in the 80s.
The shirts would come out with different like slogans on the front of them the whole time.
Really?
Yeah, it was the dumbest thing.
The worst part about the shirt tails is I remember my mom waited till I was in 8th grade before she threw out the sheets. So like I would come home, she would have done the laundry, and I would come home, and there would be the shirt tails sheets all over my bed. I'm like, Mom, I'm 14 years old. I don't require the shirt tails anymore to get me through the night. Not that I ever needed them to get through the night.
Well, you just said it, so it happened.
That's fantastic.
That is fantastic. You know,
because how many people out there are going to have shirt tail sheets in their bed?
Gary
That's
did.
amazing.
You know what? I was thinking about this when we were talking about the show before we recorded it. You know what I had on my bed, my old twin bed when I was a kid? I had this thing my parents bought for me. It was a G.I. Joe tent. It was a fitted sheet that like went to the bed, but it was a tent. You had to zip in and get into it and get out of it. It had pouches in it, so you could put like your...
there's a G.I. Joe collector out there that's like begging you to have that still.
No, long gone.
No, I guarantee. There's a guy out there who's like, you can't mention that and tell me you don't have it.
Oh, I had it. Did you ever hear of these things?
Oh yeah, G.I. Joe Hasbro licensed G.I. Joe to anything and everything that they could make money on in the 80s. I mean, and that's obviously what you had. They had like a big wheel, a G.I. Joe big wheel, and then they had the other one. It was like you wiggled the handlebars in the front, and then you would move forward.
Oh, like like a scootery type thing.
No, you rode it. You sat on it.
Oh, right. Yes, I don't know what those are called. I know what you're talking
I saw
about.
one of those online for like $500 the other day. I'm like, you got to be kidding me, but
But I bought it anyway, and I'll be sneaking it in next Thursday.
I think like the Transformers, the imagery of the Transformers, the symbols, the badge symbols they have are in everything. And Hasbro, at least if they're not getting ripped off by the guys just fabricating this stuff, they're making a killing on the licensing of this. Why there isn't more of that with G.I. Joe, I don't know.
Well, G.I. Joe started that, but for the movies, G.I. Joe, Cobra has obviously always had that Cobra logo. For the movies, at least as far as I know, it's only the movies. G.I. Joe came up with that, what is it, the hawk with the stars around it? That was never in the toys, right? There was never a symbol for G.I. Joe on the toys, at least that I remember.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you know what I'm talking about with the movies, right? They have that like yellow and black silhouette of a bird. You're right. The Decepticon and Autobot logos are everywhere, still to this day.
Oh yeah, and I will also argue, even as a G.I. Joe fan more than a Transformers fan, that the Transformers is a better property for long-lasting or longevity than a military-themed. Like, you can go into like socioeconomic and political things, but it's definitely easier to get a kid's imagination, because we're talking about toys.
Right.
It's definitely easier to get a kid's imagination that a car can transform into a robot, or a toaster can transform into a robot, or a jet, or a tank, and
a Mountain Dew machine, as in the first movie. I remember that scene. It was shooting Mountain Dews out of a cannon on its arm. Product placement, by the way.
Who wouldn't want to get hit by a can of Mountain Dew? Man, it makes me thirsty just thinking about it.
Code Red right down the gullet. We were discussing before the second G.I. Joe movie, and you said it sounded like it was written by a bunch of suits. The more we sit here and talk about the properties of the 80s, I picture a bunch of suits at the Hasbro and Kenner factories just doing glorious amounts of cocaine. And then just saying, what sounds really fucking great? Listen, first of all, we're going to need some hookers. That sounds great. All right. Secondly, oh, Jesus, my nose is bleeding again. Don't pay attention to me. Secondly, I've got two fucking great ideas. The first one, all right? First one is for we're going to have a bear. You put a tape in it, and it's going to be animatronic. The eyes will move. The mouth will open. And it's going to read your fucking kids' stories at night. Bingo, bango, boom. Get it out to market. Second idea. This is more for the older kids. Just go with me here. You know the GoBots, right? We got those GoBots. They're awesome sight kills, stuff like that. They're going to outsell the Transformers. We know this, right? Let's do GoBots that are rocks.
My God.
Let's do a line of GoBots that transform into a stationary piece of fucking geological material.
What do we call them?
Was it Rock Lords? We're gonna. No, I want.
Rock Lords. That's a great idea. I'm writing that down.
You write that down. Oh, no, listen. I want a blonde hooker. I want a black hooker. I want two Asians. Just fucking get on it, all right? So anyway,
and some Rock Lords.
And some. Okay, so you take care of the hookers. You go get the Chinese food. You go back to your guy and get more cocaine. And I'm gonna sit here and sketch out different shaped rocks, and by the way, everybody who thinks I'm making a bit, there was a fucking and I own some of them. Like I actually purchased these things. I think it was a part of the GoBots line, right? Was it part of the GoBots line?
You got me. But
Are you familiar with Rock Lords?
I think I remember that.
I remember Rock Lords, but I don't. It's
They
not
transformed into.
It's not on my radar today.
They transformed into fucking rocks. Transformed into fucking rocks.
They're bringing back the pet rock. This way it turns into a robot. That's all.
I'm gonna dig on YouTube later on today and find a fucking commercial and put it on the Facebook page.
Oh my
They're gonna
God.
bury Rock Lords in your backyard so you can find them.
What was the? I mean, like I don't think there was a
Why
cartoon.
aren't one of those in the Toy Story movies? Huh?
Yeah, really.
Rock Lord. What's he do? He transforms into a rock. Okay.
Yeah, there was some
As the kid throws them out the window.
Yeah, there was some cocaine-laden board of directors and engineers. And they all went. That is it. That's the toy for 1985.
Do you remember the Inhumanoids?
Sounds familiar. Was that the cartoon?
It was a cartoon, but there was a whole figure line that went with it. These scientists that would fight off these creatures from inside the Earth's core, and they were all monsters. But the monsters would do weird things. Like there was one that had he was hollow, so his chest would open up, and you put the smaller figures inside it, and he would shut the chest, and he devoured whoever was inside him.
No.
And that's what would happen in the cartoon. It was brutal.
The Inhumanoids wasn't the show with the rhinoceros that would shoot the rocks out of his horn.
No, that's
Yeah, it's something else. Okay, then I don't know.
That's going back to the 60s.
No, I know. Then that's okay. That's fine. We
That's the
got
Herculoids.
Herculoid. Well, it had an oids in it. It could have been fucking hemorrhoids for all I could say.
Herculoid.
Was that the hemorrhoids? Is that when your ass starts to
hemorrhoids?
bleed? Yeah.
No, that's when Space Ghost is out there.
That's from eating too many Rock Lords.
Yeah, that's what you get. What do you get when you eat too many rock lords? Okay, so Inhumanoids. Here's another one. And I had these figures. I had all of them. I really dug these. Crystar, the Crystal Warrior.
God.
No, Gary, no
Really?
Crystar.
That's
No,
early,
not a
though.
Crystar. I thought you were going with Centurions.
Oh, I had those too. Crystar, the Crystal Warrior was a Marvel series. It was two princes, like they were brothers. And one of them, the bad one, turned on the other one and kills him. The one that gets killed, the good hero, he somehow becomes made a crystal. His form becomes crystal. This wizard makes him crystal. The bad guy ends up falling into like a lava magma combustion chamber, and he comes back as like a rock monster that's on fire. And it was like a 12-issue Marvel series. It lasted for a while, but it had a ton of
More
toys.
than that, and there's an interesting history behind it, which I think you should look into, because I think, if I remember correctly, it was a Marvel creation that was then brought specifically to make it into a toy line. It was a kind of a backwards development deal.
So unlike Transformers, where it was a toy line they made a cartoon and comic out of, this was something that they made a comic first and then jumped onto.
And the Transformers gets convoluted too, because the cartoon came out after the comic book, and they were still developing the characters. So one of the reasons that the cartoon and the comic don't jive is because they were doing two development things at the different times, and they weren't talking to each other. It's interesting.
Did not know that.
I don't know.
Do you know? Here's another thing. You're talking about the Crystar, the Crystal Warrior. We talked about Masters of the Universe. Do you know how that came about? Masters of the Universe was in 1982. Conan the Barbarian was released. Whatever company made, was it Mattel who made He-Man, Masters of the Universe?
Yeah, it was Mattel, which is all now part of Hasbro.
Yeah.
Mattel at this point. I know Kenner is, but
So Mattel gets hired to make the toys for Conan the Barbarian. The He-Man being Conan with dark hair. They see Conan the Barbarian, which is full of violence and Conan fucking wolf women and shit like that. And they go,
yeah, I slapped her on the ass.
I slapped on the ass and she became a witch, and then she tried to kill me, and you see where she tried to eat me there. And then Sven Dawson comes in with this giant hammer, and I stab him to the heart. Well, all that stuff happens, and Mattel goes, Mattel kind of goes, we cannot sell these toys to fucking 8-year-olds because this movie is like it's got like a fucking steroid fueled fucking madman in it.
PG-13.
No, R. No, the first one was R.
that was a rated R movie.
The second one that sucked was PG-13. I don't know the whole history about it. They created the He-Man mythos to get rid of the figures, and it lasted many years.
Amazing what you do when you have molds and you have a ton of money in mold making.
Yeah. So next time you look at a He-Man figure, just picture it with dark hair, and it should have
Yeah.
been it should have been me. That He-Man. I will take you out back, He-Man. I'll destroy you.
I wonder if he got money for that.
That's a good question.
You should do, or Schwarzenegger as Adam, Prince Adam.
I have the power. You see that? No, I would never wear a purple cardigan. No, I'm not that much of a pussy. I'd never wear a purple cardigan.
Come here. I want to show you my sword.
Man at arms, go away. I'm about to do things to your daughter. It's going to be disgusting. You don't want to see it.
Sorceress! Open the castle Grayskull!
When I'm done with you, Skeletor, I'm gonna not only kill you, I'm gonna fuck you.
I'm going to do bad things to you, Evelyn.
Me and Evelyn are gonna do it on top of you, Skeletor.
Beastman, you can watch.
Now, Beastman, you sit in the corner like a good boy.
Manly faces, where are you?
Get Trap Jaw in here. I want to see what he can do with that jaw.
It's Ram Man. You come up behind her.
Fucking Ram Man, the stupidest figure ever. What all his arms moved, right? His arms moved, and then all he had was a static body that you would press down on the spring legs and hit the thing on his ankle, and he would bounce.
Who is the guy with the extended head? The guy you'd squeeze his legs and his head would just go.
Oh yeah.
It was really phallic.
Yeah. And then there was the reptile guy that you would fill with water, and he was basically a fucking pump sprayer. Merman. Yeah.
Skeletor.
Fucking merman.
Poor guy that would have to voice that character. I mean, to do that for a repeated amount of time, oh man, he must have been just guzzling the Malort.
Yeah, he probably was balls deep in Malort. God, we should reimagine that. We should take Dolph Lundgren out of the. It's too bad. It's too bad Schwarzenegger were not 30 years ago. Because if we had made the Masters of the Universe movie with Schwarzenegger and especially Schwarzenegger around the time of Conan when he was just still probably all high on the steroids, that would have been like the Terminator wouldn't have been his defining role. It would have been He-Man.
Yeah, Gwildor, you play those keys. You play those notes well. Play those notes well. We can get home because we don't want to be here anymore.
Orko, get the fuck away from me! What the fuck are you, by the way? Your figure comes with a zip line. What are you talking about? Orko. You used to remember that? You had the zip line. You put the zip line in, and he would start going around. All those cartoons at that time, or at least a lot of them, like Thundercats and Masters of the Universe, had to have the character like Orko. Like, remember Thundercats Snarf? Snarf. Snarf. He was like a dog and a rat, and he sucked.
He had a nephew named Snarfer. And
He
Snarfer
did.
came down too. He's always snarfing Snarfer. Yeah, Lionel.
Chitara. Talking about hot characters, Chitara was kind of a hot comic book character. Gary, agree or disagree?
Did you ever see the interview with the woman that played her?
No.
I must have it on a DVD somewhere, and so they talked to the voice cast for the special features of these DVDs and such. And this woman, she's well into her 50s at this point, and she's like, so I go to these shows, I go to these comic shows or pop culture events, and people keep coming up to her and they're like, "You're the hottest thing I ever saw on film." She's like, "I was just a voice," and they're like, "Can you sign my picture?" It's a picture of the damn character.
Yeah.
And she's like, I find it fascinating that they still find me attractive, even though it's not really me.
Yeah, it gets kind of scary.
It's weird.
Thundercats started the furry movement.
Yeah, really. That might have been it. Someone was trying to ask me the other day about Pint of Comics and what we wanted to do. I don't know. I was talking to somebody at work or somebody who listens to the show.
We're just talking Arnold Schwarzenegger voices until we get it done.
And they said, "What are you trying to do differently with the show?" And what you just said to me made me think what we're trying to do differently with the show is we're not trying to be those fucking fan guys that do shit like that.
Those guys.
Well, I mean, but it's just, so...
Breaking away, getting into the deeper stuff.
Yeah, getting a little bit deeper. Not being the guys that go up to somebody who voiced a female. We want to give, I guess, I hate to use the word geekdom because it's used so much, but we want to give geekdom a better purview, or better view than a lot of people look at it. Because a lot of people do look at it as...
It's expansive, we want to get into.
Yeah, we want to get much more
We're
expansive.
broad-based. We got a lot of interests that we're going to get into, and it's not all comics.
Yeah.
Obviously, as this one is all G.I. Joe. But...
You'll have heard it. It's not released as we're recording this, but as you listen to our Star Wars episode, which is coming out, well, you're listening to this, it is already out. You'll have realized that we're not like the typical guys who are going to sit there and kiss George Lucas's balls for, we love Star Wars, but we have issues with it. It's like that uncle of yours that you love, but he drinks too much. You're going to love him, but you're going to be honest about the fact that, hey, look, you pissed in the fucking punch last Christmas, dickhead.
And Gary had a good point, too. I mean, so the G.I. Joe series that I was reading at one time by Devil's Due, it felt like a fan fiction, which I don't particularly care for. But It was the only G.I. Joe book out at the time.
Oh yeah. That's the only reason why I stayed in comics was because that was at one point the only comic book I was buying. Like Happerstance, I discovered that Devil's Due came out with, G.I. Joe, and I found it on issue number 2 because issue number 1 came out 9/11, and
On 9/11?
on 9/11, yeah,
geez.
timing.
Yeah.
And that was my only book for probably 8 years was only G.I. Joe titles. And then, one day I was like, oh, they make TV shows, and I like these TV shows. Oh, they're based on comic books. And then I went right back into the rabbit hole of reading comics again. Long box is full now, and it's awesome.
Your wife rolls her eyes? Does your wife roll her eyes?
Sometimes she thinks it's weird that now I'm into buying back issues. Like if you want to do a What I'm Reading segment, I'm now reading Bill Mantlow's ROM.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
That's a throwback. That's a throwback to the 70s, that damn character.
Yeah.
So, and you're looking at a whole different aspect of comics and not even cartoons. I never got that far. It was just a figure.
Bill Mantlow's a pretty interesting story of what happened to him.
Yeah.
Why don't you, for people that don't know,
Do you know?
I've started to read about it, but I'll let you.
So Mantlo is a very prolific writer at Marvel. Wrote pretty much every single character they had at least once.
created Rocket Raccoon.
Co-created Rocket Raccoon. I think he co-created something else too. I can't remember now, but he was very prolific, and he phased out of comics and went into law, and he was into a health kick, and he was rollerblading. He was in New York and got tagged by somebody while he was rollerblading, and it was a hit and run accident, which he never recovered from. He's brain damaged. So, but now because of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies and the money that Marvel was able to pay him for Rocket, his brother has been able to build him a house and put him in a facility where he can be cared for 24 hours a day. Instead of a like a rest home where he wasn't apparently very happy.
No, I read the article you'd put up that his brother wrote. There's way too many of those stories that don't end well.
Yeah.
I mean, his story obviously hasn't ended well, but at least he's getting taken care of in the fashion that he needs to be taken care of.
And his brother has been very active in the comics community, keeping the memory of Bill alive. Always saying, this is where he is now. Thankful for all the cards. This is where you can send gifts.
Yeah.
Because apparently he does read them all to Bill, and Bill, depends on the day, but he can respond in some way to them.
Yeah.
But,
actually, talking about this, it just brings up something that happened, I think, yesterday. Rich Buckler died.
Rich Buckler passed away, yeah. I don't
Creator,
know from what. But.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. Creator of Deathlock. And did much more than that.
Oh,
but
he was an artist on pretty much everything. My personal favorite was the All-Star Squadron from DC.
Okay, yep.
Basic house-style kind of artist that did everything, and you either loved him or you didn't. But
Yeah.
apparently he was a real friendly guy. I've never met him. But
We started the show after this happened, but go back just a month or two ago, we lost Bernie Wrightson. Bernie Wrightson is one of those guys, he's almost helped define monsters in comic books. He worked on Swamp Thing, worked on a bunch of those old
Swamp Thing figures. Who
Yeah.
had Swamp Thing figures?
Swamp Thing from the cartoon.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
Well,
you didn't see them? They made.
I've seen
them.
them.
Went on forever.
I've seen them. Yeah, like they much.
Swamp Thing had a big net that you could cast right out of his hand
Yeah.
at one point. A big
But-
plastic net.
I'm going to jump right back into that, but I do want to just say that I got a chance to meet Bernie Wrightson at Boston Comic Con about 5 years ago. I talked to him. He was a super nice guy, signed some stuff for me, was very friendly. And then last year, when we went to Boston Comic Con, we saw him. He was obviously not doing as well, but I was able to pick up a print from him, Swamp Thing versus Batman.
And as I've said before, I was surprised to see him there.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew he was in ill health. I heard he was getting better, but then you stick him in that hot box of that was a horrendous experience.
If you're not a huge comic book fan, check out some of these guys' work. Just look up Bernie Wrightson. Look up. I've had 2 people in particular in my life who, through listening to the show, have said to me, "I want to start reading certain comics." So I mean, if we're actually like swaying some people that have never read comics before, then go look up Bernie Wrightson, go look up Rich Buckler, go look up Bill Mantlo.
Stay away from websites called CBR, the
Yeah.
Comic Book Resources,
Yeah,
because that's
don't-
about as much resource as stabbing yourself in the eye.
Yeah, find the stuff on your own through searches. Ask me or John. Send us an email. You could even
That's
ask.
a call to action, by the way.
I could do that on here. I could do that. I just can't do that on the radio show. I was going to say, though, you said the thing about, and this is a perfect little segue into toys. Not so much even 80s toys. This is probably more a 90s toy thing. But you said like the net and everything. the Batman toys with the 700 different Batman in his neon green laser armor. Okay, Batman the Animated Series was great. I love it. But like you look at the toys for those lines or for other lines and you're like, he never wore like a fucking mashed potato and bacon suit. Like what? Batman pizza party suit, you know, like what? And I understand it fully. I understand the thought
Baked
process.
potato salesman Batman figure with cream cheese and chives.
I understand it completely. I understand that those same cocaine crazed 80s guys are gone now, and now like they're younger, you know, yuppie caffeine fueled counterparts have taken over, and what they're saying is, okay, all right, Batman.
I've had 17 Red Bulls.
I've had 17 Red Bulls. I'm on edge right now. All right, so Batman in the animated series wears a total of maybe at the most like 3 different costumes, and I'm probably shooting it past that. We need to come up with 30. Was he ever in the Arctic? No. Get him in the Arctic. Was he ever a ninja on any episodes? No. Get him in a ninja costume.
What do you mean Batman was never a ninja?
He is a ninja, but he was never in a ninja costume.
What about that time he was dressed up as a donut salesman?
The donut salesman Batman was one of his disguises.
Time to make the donuts Batman. We could tie it right into Dunkin' Donuts. How about that? We could do that, right?
I love going to I still to this day love going to the stores because they still do that. That's still a thing where if it's a figure line and they if you have 8 characters in a show and they make 6 of them because they don't always make the girls, which is just true. They don't always make the girl figures. It's sad, but they would always find a way to jam people in costumes that they never fucking wore in that medium.
Oh, every action figure line, the most popular character of that line will have a million different costumes for no reason.
Yeah,
like look at Wolverine in the X-Men line in the 90s.
Yeah, didn't they have one where he was like he wore like a bone, like a fossil over his head, right? Didn't they like a dinosaur Wolverine or something? I remember seeing a lot of these things. They're just fucking crazy. Wow. Yeah.
Bone with a fossil.
He wore like a skull.
The same thing.
He wore like a skull helmet.
Oh, okay.
And then he had because this is the point where he had the bone claws.
So he looked like Shao Kahn from
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat.
It was fucking terrible. But they just fight. they just I got Injustice too.
You what?
I got Injustice too. We were talking about that a couple weeks ago.
Oh.
Yeah. I folded and bought it.
You got a game.
Yeah, I don't buy games ever, and I had a little bit extra cash, and I said, you know what? Are you a game player, Gary? Are you? Do you have a secret PS4 that your wife doesn't know about?
I haven't touched my PlayStation 3 in like 2.5 years.
Well,
since my wife got pregnant and we had a kid, like literally all my games have sat. The last game I bought was actually I didn't buy it. She actually bought it for me for Christmas when she was pregnant. She bought me the Deadpool video game, which was actually fun to play, but I couldn't play it because like she would just walk by and I'd be embarrassed. It's like your guilty pleasure, and I was just like, "Oh yeah, don't worry." She's like, "Isn't this violent?" I says, "Well, I could be playing that other violent game, Grand Theft Auto, that you don't like me, going to the strip club and picking up the hookers and then running them over and getting my money back."
Grand Theft Auto. When I got it, when GTA 3 came out, like 15 years ago.
Vice City, man.
Well, Vice City was the second. Or the fourth one.
Yeah.
But when GTA 3 came out, and some guys I worked with were into it, and they're telling me about it, I'm like, well, this just sounds fucking fantastic. So I go to this. Is how long ago it was? I go to what was the place on the Berlin Turnpike? Media Play. Do you remember Media Play?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
It was like a Best Buy, but like they had collectibles and stuff. I bought it there. I bring it home. I'm playing it. My wife's not home. This is the apartment we shared, and I'm playing it, and I'm loving this thing, and I'm fucking killing hookers, and I'm shooting people in the head, and I'm thinking to myself, man, my wife, she's not a prude, but she's gonna go, this game is just too much. So that night she comes home, she's watching me play it. The next day I come home from work, and she's sitting in front of the fucking couch, on the couch in front of the TV, cross-eyed from playing for like 4 hours in a row. She's way past wherever I was. She's like, I had 3 more missions, and I'm like, she's like, if you run the hookers over after you do them, you get your money back. I'm like, wow. I will say about that game though, as much as I loved it, because I love Vice City, after a few iterations of it wore its path. I liked Vice City, and then I think I played the San Andreas. Was that one? And then I bought the next one, and I played it for like a day or two and ended up selling it because I was like, you know what? They could do enough little different things, but it's just, but for a novelty, for a year or two of fun playing, like Vice City, I really love that one.
My ex loved playing Grand Theft Auto, but not because of all the things you could do. It was all the hidden challenges, like doing all the jumps. I would come home from work. She'd be jumping up and trying to get this achievement unlocked or whatever. That's what she would do. She would do it on my save. So this way, when I decided to go pick up hookers, I didn't have to worry about collecting the achievements.
You guys were teaming up to get your hookers,
Vice
to get
City
your
tag
Vice City tag team. Look, I'm on hooker duty, much like the 80s the bigwigs at Kenner. You're on hooker duty. You get the cocaine, and I'll come up with the great ideas for fucking rock lords.
Yeah. Rockstar Games was more like, you know what? Instead of us ingesting the cocaine, let's have our consumers ingest the cocaine and get the hookers. They can enjoy what we were enjoying for all of the 80s.
Yeah. I hadn't played that one. Like I said, I gave those up. But I will say, I think Rockstar also made Red Dead Redemption.
Yes.
The Western one. That one is pretty cool. That it's GTA, but with a little bit more story play and the Old West. That was a pretty fun game. You ever play that one, John?
I have a PS2.
So, John, have you ever played Earthworm Jim?
I have actually, and that came up the other day, by the way.
Did it really?
Yeah, that one of Libby's cousins who comes from England she's like the only person that remembers Earthworm Jim. And I'm like, I remember Earthworm Jim. She's like, well, no one over there does. It's just apparently it was a cartoon. I'm like, yeah, briefly I remember that.
I don't remember that. I remember it being a game.
Yeah, and a comic.
A comic, really? Was it like?
It was a 3-issue miniseries from Marvel.
Oh, jeez.
Marvel? Yeah, Marvel.
You're an asshole. I was
I
going
have
to
it for
say,
sale.
is it in your storage bin?
It is in my storage bin of many comics that I can't get rid of.
Come on down. John's selling off his comics at his storage bin. We'll give you the address right here in Portland, Connecticut.
Yeah. So I remember a cartoon from the 80s. I don't think either of you do. Spiral Zone.
Sounds familiar. Was that one of the ones that had something to do with, like, you had to have a device to hook up to the TV?
No.
Okay.
No, but that... Yeah,
I know that's a favorite of yours.
yeah,
What was that? That was
Captain Power and the Soldiers of the Future. But
Captain
that was not a cartoon. That was live action.
Live action, but you had to have, like, a toy that
You didn't have
interacted
to.
with a box that you put on your TV.
Didn't have to.
Well,
That was only if you wanted to play the game. The
Again-
show was like... You watch the show, ignore the toy aspect to it. The show stood on its own and was awesome. But yeah, there was a whole toy aspect that was tied into it.
Never played with that, but I do remember
That
that.
didn't work very well from what I hear.
So what was Spiral Zone?
Spiral Zone was... now here's another weird concept for you.
Another cocaine-fueled concept?
Probably cocaine and booze and fueled from some immigrant from like Estonia or somewhere, So it's futuristic. Scientists, bad scientists, have released a plague upon the world, and it has taken over people. So there are very few people without the plague infesting them anymore, and the people that are infested with the plague are trying to completely take over the world. So it's just basically zone troopers, which are the Spiral Zone troopers, the good people, against the zoners, or I forget what the hell they call them.
Zoners.
Yeah, they were in the Spiral Zone. The Spiral Zone was where all the nasty stuff was going on. It was weird.
How long did this last?
About a year and a half.
Wow, and this was
maybe.
late 80s, early 80s?
Yeah, it's probably late 80s. I'd love to have that as property and rewrite it.
You probably could just buy it, John. It's probably in
I
public
probably
domain.
could be a $5, like, here,
Yeah.
I got a license.
Yeah, really.
No, you want to buy it? Oh, yeah, it's $10. Okay.
We'll double it. And here's a bag of cocaine from our original meeting. It's a little crusty,
The
but
toys were really weird because they were like unicycles that you could they would ride the back of the unicycle. They were big wheeled monstrosities that they'd run around into the zone with. And
Bicycles from the 1880s.
yeah.
18
Basically,
steam
penny
powered
farthings. Basically,
steam powered
So
bicycles with mustaches.
It was weird, and a lot. It was, the animation was really cheap, and then most of the characters weren't American, other country. So you had your Russian.
We got a lot of stuff on this episode in particular that I'm going to be posting to the Facebook page. Like, I'm going to find Spiral Zone.
Spiral Zone's weird. It's weird, and there was a comic series. It only lasted like 6 issues, but
More than Earthworm Jim.
Well, I don't think Earthworm Jim was supposed to be any more than 3 anyway. There might have been a second series for that too.
So Gary, you've officially been named the go-to G.I. Joe guy here at Pint Comics. But besides G.I. Joe, do you have like a second favorite? I know you said that you were a fan of Mask, which we didn't really discuss. And I was a fan of Mask too.
Matt Tracker.
Matt Tracker.
Oh, quite easily my second favorite was Transformers.
Oh, okay. So you were a
Yeah, the big two, hit me over the head. Yeah. But Mask was my third.
Yeah.
I like Mask, but if not primarily a toy property, but more of a TV show that had toys and potentially a comic, I haven't looked into it, was Robotech.
Oh.
And I meant to bring that up too. I forgot all about that.
I
Robotech was my show at the time.
Yeah, I did not watch Robotech in completion, but when I was a kid, it was on after school, and I watched a lot of it. I would love to get it's 84 episodes, I think, and they did a DVD set at least a few
You
years
can get
ago.
the whole thing on DVD.
Yeah.
And in some of those sets, you can get the original series episodes from Japan as well as the American.
Which was
version.
2 different series, right? Three Macross.
It was Macross, it was Southern Cross, and I forget what the last one was called, Mos Piata, which might have been the first one too. But it's been a while.
Genesis Climber Mos Piata was the second one.
Second one.
See, he knows that.
Yeah, the Japanese stuff I don't really remember anymore. It's all stuff that I've
But the American version is
erased
all.
from my memory.
There are titties in the Japanese versions.
Did
Yeah,
Minmay show her titties?
Not that I recall, but
I do remember as
on Min-May
Rick Hunter, right? It was-
for a good portion of the series. Yeah.
yeah, and then who was Rick Hunter's the pilot buddy of his
Roy Fokker.
Roy Fokker, yeah, because he was the original Fokker.
Fokker.
Okay, it's spelled Fokker though.
It's German.
Was it German?
Yeah, it's Fokker from the airplanes.
Oh, okay. No,
Nothing.
Didn't know nothing. I remember very little about Robotech. That they were fighting the Zentradi, and
Initially, yes.
and then there was the invasion.
That was the third series.
Okay, yeah,
But it's all interconnected. It's a really well developed recreation of original series that I thought that did. I mean, the storyline is pretty heady.
Who was the admiral or the general with the mustache, the blue coat?
Captain?
The captain, was that the captain?
Global.
Global. Okay. I'm remembering things, but just not putting it all together.
He had the little accent, and
Yes.
we don't really know where he was from.
Yes.
We think he was German, but we don't know. And he smoked a pipe.
Captain, you're not supposed to smoke on the bridge.
Do you own the 84 episode set?
I had them all on videotape, and the problem was the videotapes.
The problem is that nobody has VCRs anymore.
Well, that and I don't have them anymore anyway. But the videotapes originally, when they were released, edited the episodes so you didn't get the full episode because they would cram so many onto a tape, and they would cut them down to fit them onto the tape.
So we talked about Robotech. We talked about Transformers, which you're a big fan of as well as John. We know John has a sexual crush on Optimus Prime. I don't know if you've ever heard this story, Gary. I don't know if I've ever told it on this show. I know I told it on the last show. About a year ago, John moved for the first time. He moved 17 times in a year's period. And I helped him move out. I found his naughty closet. And John's naughty closet was a bedroom closet that had all of his posters in it. And as we're going through his posters, I realized he has all these rolled, still in cellophane posters. And they're all of Optimus Prime. They're all like Optimus Prime in beefcake positions. Optimus Prime. Did you ever see Burt Reynolds on the rug in Playgirl? Optimus Prime across a giant rug.
Such a dick.
Laying there all lubed up in 5W30.
There's a reason why they say he's got the touch.
Yeah, he's got the power. So we know that John loves Optimus.
One shall stand, one shall fall, and it won't be me.
And it won't be you.
Ba weep, grana weep, ninny ba.
And I think we remember you said for Decepticons, who was your favorite Decepticon, John? I think you said it on one of the shows. Thundercracker, because he's the shittiest of those three jets. Who would you say are your two favorite Decepticon and Autobot, or one favorite character from each faction?
My favorite Autobot is actually Grimlock. I've always loved Grimlock.
Yeah, Grimlock is cool.
And Decepticon is really a hard choice. I won't go with Megatron only because he's and I won't go with Starscream because to me those guys are just too one-dimensional. But I like Soundwave.
Soundwave's cool.
The cassette tape boombox.
I like the fact that he had the multiple different cassettes too. He had Ravager, right? Ravager. That was the Panther, and then what was the bird? Thunderbeak or?
There were two. There was a Buzzsaw, and the other one was Laserbeak.
Thunderbeak.
Laserbeak was the only one you really saw in the cartoon until much, much later. But
okay,
he had them both to begin with. And it was just three of them until much. Oh no! And then there was Rumble and
Ravage, right?
Well, there was Ravage, but Rumble.
Ravage was the Panther.
Rumble and Frenzy.
Frenzy. Okay. Oh, was he the red? There was a red one, right?
Yeah. But you didn't see Frenzy on the cartoon until much later.
Oh, Rumble had the. Yeah, he would make the earthquake with the hydraulic arms, the pneumatic arms. Okay, that was cool.
You want to talk about missed marketing opportunities? They make a Teddy Ruxpin, but they don't make a Soundwave that actually played cassettes. Or an Autobot Blaster, really?
Well, that's okay. Soundwave was about, 3 years before Teddy Ruxpin. Teddy Ruxpin was like 87,
Can you imagine Soundwave, the voice they gave him on the cartoon, reciting like Shakespeare to a kid?
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, well, he had a real robotic voice, right?
No, it was great.
Yeah, he sounded like a Cylon.
One of the things they did for that cartoon, and I thought it was really cool, was the reverb that they gave their voices. So you could always tell the robots from the humans, for one, but it just sounded metallic, and then some of them were so much more robotic than others, like Soundwave. It was just the cold, emotionless flatness of it, and it was just awesome the way he would say things. Like, eject would be the best word you could hear on there.
And everything started with like Operation. It'd be like Operation, Operation Spy Zone.
I don't,
You don't remember that stuff?
No,
Oh, it's
you
so
know,
cool. He's like, ravage, eject, operation, spy.
No, a lot of my problem with a lot of these properties is I loved them 30 years ago, and I watched them 30 years ago, and I never went back because I have a thing where I want to remember them the way I remember them. I went back probably in my 20s and tried to watch a lot of the live action stuff that I loved as a kid. Now, movies hold up generally because movies, you tend, there's a production there. They're more wide span, I guess. But, like, I love the A-Team as a kid. I loved Knight Rider as a kid. I went back and tried to watch episodes of those things, and I was just like, what was wrong with me? Knight Rider is the worst. A-Team is worse than the Knight Rider.
Oh, I disagree with that.
Ooh, they're both
I
bad.
disagree to that. I will honestly say my kid falls asleep every night to the A-Team thing. We watch the A-Team until he just drifts off into sleep.
Oh, it's so bad.
The A-Team is bad, but come on, Knight Rider. Think about it. Think about how cheesy it is.
It had the greatest theme song ever, though.
Michael, I can't do the jump now. I don't have enough ramp.
I love the fact that
And the camera angles on the freaking speaker video thing of the stupid car as he's talking. Like, this is the image you get. Like, come on. How many minutes of the show were taken up while the camera is angled on that stupid little flashing light as he spoke? Michael.
I used to love the
video here.
I love the fact that in the first season it was a flashing light, and then the next season it was the graph. Like, it became a graph.
If you look in the first season when they introduced Car, and I'm not trying.
Car.
And Car has the 3 lines while Kit has the flashing
Flash.
light. But also, Car is voiced by Peter Cullen, which is also Optimus Prime.
Really? I know Peter Cullen did a lot of voice stuff. I didn't know he was Car.
Well, he did a lot of the movie voiceover stuff too, so you can hear him. Not so much nowadays, but
I wasn't. I liked the Car episodes as a kid, but I was more waiting for the Goliath episodes. When you had
evil Michael Knight.
When you had Earth or Mirror Universe David Hasselhoff. You know how you know I'm evil? I got a mustache, baby, just like Spock. When Spock had a fucking goatee, he was bad.
And he just I don't know. He's so vacuous.
I like the story idea that he was mad though that his father gave wasn't Michael Knight.
Yeah, it was something.
It was Michael something, and he got shot in the face, and they gave him It was Garth. Was that his name?
Maybe.
Yeah, Garth Knight's face. Yeah, that was the plot of Knight Rider. He's a cop, gets shot in the face.
You tend to forget until they bring it back up 6 seasons later.
Yeah,
that show lasted.
It lasted longer than the A-Team.
The A-Team was 4 seasons, right?
No, the A-Team was 5. They had a shortened 5th season. That was when they went to work for the CIA.
Wasn't there a whole season where they were actually captured by the military?
First 5 episodes of the 5th season.
What I love about talking to Gary about this stuff.
I'm watching this every night.
What I love about talking to Gary about this is a visual thing that you people can't see here. Is I'm facing Gary, and when Gary is going into these little moments of knowing this stuff, he looks up. He has this look that almost like, in a movie when they have like an autistic genius, and they look up and they look over to the corner. Because that's like he's pulling it out. He's like first 5 seasons of episode 2 or season 3 is
1980s Rain Man here.
So what is about A-Team? What is just you still genuinely like the show, or you just it's nostalgia thing for you?
It's really a nostalgia thing because really, I mean, you have all these automatic weapons and not one person gets hit.
I had less of a problem with the fact that the A-Team was a horrible crack shot than the fact that evading the law, they're evading the military, but if you need them, you could just fucking find them. Like if me and John, like if our podcast got in trouble with like the mafia, because if you didn't know this, the mafia is funneling the money that supplies us the money for this.
It's the Disney van is coming for us.
If the Disney van was coming, or the mafia decided they want their loan back for all this podcast equipment, all we'd have to do is just like go to like a fucking phone pole and find like the little tear off for the A-Team. Meanwhile, the military is like, who was the guy that was in charge?
Colonel Decker.
Colonel Decker. He's like, we got to do everything we need to do to find the A-Team. I want 3 crack squads of commandos out there. And meanwhile, there's some girls getting beaten up by her boyfriend, and she's just like, boop, 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 boop. Hi, is this Hannibal? Yeah, John Hannibal Smith. Yeah, could you bring those dudes and help me out? My boyfriend kicked my ass again yesterday. And it's like they show up. And then Colonel Decker's like, we missed him again.
And don't forget, they're driving the world's most inconspicuous vehicle.
Yes.
It's like an 80s GMC van. It's gray and black with a red pinstripe, and it's a custom van.
Yeah.
Like, how do you not see the one of one van that's driving all over Southern California?
Yeah, it was terrible. And then my other favorite thing is that no matter how many times they need to get BA in a plane, he will be fooled by the milk thing again every time. You know you ain't tricking me to get on that plane with that crazy Murdoch, Hannibal. You know it ain't happening. BA,
I ain't getting on no plane.
I ain't getting on no plane. BA, it's okay. Just go see Face. He's got a pint of milk for you. I can't believe you roofied me again, Hannibal. If I wake up again and Face's fingers in my butthole one more time, we're gonna have major problems. Yeah, so that's why I don't go back to like Transformers and G.I. Joe, like the Sunbow series and everything, because I'm afraid that I'm gonna immediately be hit with the fact that these things do not hold up.
Animated Transformers, it is a little difficult, but overall, if you can ignore the really crappy aspects of it, which is a good chunk of it, it's still got a core decency to it that still holds up, particularly when it comes to just the good versus evil aspect. Plus, I like the characters.
Yeah, the other thing I'll add is also, at least if you watch them quote unquote in order, there is like kind of a storyline where G.I. Joe, they never developed a storyline other beyond like their miniseries. Like
I was gonna say, I remember they had a couple miniseries.
Has a beginning, it has a middle, and then there's kind of an end because we got to get ready for the movie, and then they restart over with a new beginning. And they actually, I think you can correct me on this, John, the last seasons after the movie are really tied together as a storyline more than ever.
They are, and I kind of phased out at that point too because I didn't like what happened in the movie. Killed off all the characters that I liked for no other reason than marketing. And then of course that slapped them in the face when they realized how bad they screwed that one up. But the show after the movie, it takes place in 2005 for one thing.
The distant future of 2005.
Yeah, so it's a distant future. It's all the futuristic characters, most of which I didn't like. Very few of the voice talent carried over from the movie because they had hired so many named actors for the movie. They weren't going to continue on to a series, and which is too bad because that would have been nice. These days they probably would, but
oh yeah.
But then the animation quality dropped heavily, so it was really bad. It was hard to watch. And then Galvatron as a villain,
he was purple.
He was purple, but it holds up for me to this point, and I still make fun of the other Transformers fans on the boards that I'm on and stuff that like Galvatron. I think he's one of the best villains ever. I'm like, he's totally nuts. He's off his. There's no other reason for him existing except to kill. It doesn't matter who you are, and to have him being followed by a bunch of Transformers that followed Megatron, who was.
But wasn't how did it work? He was Megatron or was not Megatron?
A bunch of Transformers got smushed down into Galvatron, recreated by Unicron, and Megatron was the base form, but there were other Transformers that got mixed in with them.
Okay.
It's hard to actually see it in the animation style because you don't know who becomes who. You can only Megatron becomes Galvatron, but there's something else that gets smushed in with him, and it looks like it's one of the Insecticons.
Oh, really?
But you can't really tell. Regardless, the characterization went off the nut, and I hated it. It just made no sense anymore. And then you had Starscream's ghost following him around. And
Starscream, as I described before, as the brainy Smurf of the Transformers. I'm going to tell on you. He was such a bitch. I like the character, but he was such a bitch.
They did some good things with him in the comic book. But when they brought the cartoon back with the Beast Wars, if you hadn't seen that,
I hadn't.
And that's what 2000s, early 2000s. The company that did it was all computer graphics from Canada, beautifully done, tied directly in to the original cartoon series.
And this was the one where Optimus Prime was a gorilla, right?
It's not the same person.
Oh, it's not?
No.
Okay.
It's so far flung in the future. He's a lot smaller for one, and then he's a different person, different character.
You enjoyed this too, you said, correct? You.
Oh yeah, Beast Wars was that was, like in college. That's when I was in college, and I was an engineering major, so obviously I'm hanging out with other engineering majors and other computer majors, and we would all, like, when Beast Wars came on, we would all go into, like, somebody's dorm room, and we would all sit and watch on a little 17-inch
When you said engineering majors and computer majors, were you just trying to say nerds, but in a much more effective way?
Yes, nerds.
You're really smart ones, though.
Really smart nerds who are someday going to own the world.
I was the first kid on campus to have a DVD player. You have no idea how quote unquote popular that made me.
How much did you shell out? How much did you shell out for that thing at the time, or was it a gift?
Oh no, that was supposed to be a graduation gift, and then when my mom saw the bill for the computer, she basically shit a brick, and she's like, "If you want it, you can use your savings to get it." That was $2,800.
Oh, so it was a computer. The first DVD player I bought was like $380, like when they first came out. out. And I remember I went to, again, it was Media Play, and I bought my first 2 DVDs. I don't remember what the other one was. One of them was American History X, and the other one was something else, and they were like $25 at the time.
Oh yeah,
it's amazing. I remember what new technology will cost.
Yeah, I remember one of the first ones I bought. It was 98, and it was an anime series. I can't remember which one that was. I think it was probably a Macross, like Macross Plus. Then the next one was Mad Max, and I spent $30 each on them. And then by the time I was getting out of college, I remember going in the bins. It was like $8 a DVD.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my god, this is great! And I picked up Flash Gordon.
Yeah, we're at the point right now where they're talking about DVDs. Blu-rays are going to stay around. DVDs are coming to a close pretty soon. What after that? There's nothing. It's nothing physical anymore.
High def? Who needs high def?
Nothing. Yeah, HDO. I remember those. Do you remember when DVDs first came out? Do you remember a service called Divx, where you would purchase it? Right, you would pay like say $5 to take it home with you. Okay, you got the case, you got everything. A friend of mine had a Divx player. You bring it home, you could play it one time. If you wanted to unlock it so it would play multiple times, you then had to do a credit card thing, $10 or so, $15, which would make it $20, and it would unlock it so it was basically yours. So it was almost like a rental that you would bring home.
Oh, I remember that now.
It didn't last very long.
They're kiosks,
that was
right?
Best Buy.
Best Buy, I think, had them. Yeah. No, it wasn't a kiosk. It was.
I think
they had
like
sections of
kiosks
them.
too, though.
Yeah, they had sections of them. Divx. You bring it home, you pay $5, bring the whole thing home, and then you watch it. If you wanted to keep it, you had to pay the remainder to own it.
Technology for
It is technology, and we're in a day and age now where we're moving out of physical technology anymore.
And we're going on FM radio, so
That's all right. That's okay.
it ain't going anywhere.
It hasn't gone anywhere yet, and it doesn't like it's going anywhere soon. So
Not at all.
Sirius XM hasn't won that war yet.
Well, have you listened to it?
Not in a while. My wife has it.
There's a reason.
Not good.
It's the same old crap.
I've listened to bits of it in my wife's car. I do like the fact that you don't get as much DJ banter in terms of.
Here's a good example. All right, so I did the show with Jim Santa Barbara, the curator there of the Wax Museum, and he's playing stuff that you're not going to find even on that network. He's playing doo-wop music that's modern doo-wop music, modern bands playing doo-wop music. They won't play that on that network. Even on their doo-wop program, it's all the old stuff and nothing but the old. So these bands that are still performing from that era, trying to give them new music, they won't play it. He will. That was an interesting little bit of knowledge when I was sitting in with him.
That is interesting.
So you're only.
I honestly didn't know that there was bands still doing doo-wop music.
Apparently, there's not just a few. There's quite a few.
I know acapella is very popular right now. I know there's Pentatonics or something like that. There's a band that tours and is very popular, but I didn't know that people were still doing doo-wop
And
music.
you wouldn't believe the amount of phone calls he got in that hour and a half that we were there.
Really?
Yeah. It's a whole following of people. I know there's fans out there. I just didn't realize it was still that. So it was a learning experience.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
So Gary,
Getting away from G.I. Joe a minute.
for a second.
No, it's okay. I've always, again, I'm, many interests. I'm a many faceted individual. Lots of layers. I'm an onion.
You're an onion.
But yeah, commercial radio. They're not gonna, it's all by money, and because I listen to a lot of music that's not on commercial radio. Biggest one is I listen to Frank Zappa and Dweezil Zappa. You're never gonna hear them on satellite. You're never gonna hear them on terrestrial radio.
Yeah.
It's just on the internet. You'll be able to.
You'll hear Joe's Garage, and you'll hear Moving to Montana
Well,
once
here's
in a
the
while.
thing. I will say this. I mean, the one station or whatever program on satellite that I do listen to frequently is the Deep Tracks. I guess their channels. I don't have it. It's just at work. So I tune into the Deep Tracks, and surprisingly enough, in 1 week when I had the truck that had the satellite in it, I heard more damn Frank Zappa that whole week than I probably had in the last 30 years. It's just nuts. And it was not Joe's Garage. It was really deep stuff. I mean, Baby Snakes was probably the most known song that I knew that they played. And it was awesome.
Gary's singing along to it. This is where actually interesting that we're talking about Frank Zappa, because you could
You've ever brought up Frank Zappa on any one of our shows?
No, you could probably talk to this better than I can. I saw recently that, and I didn't realize there was a contentious relationship between the family. Dweezil Zappa has a tour where it's called Zappa Plays Zappa, and he goes out and he plays Frank Zappa's music, and he's been sued and an injunction filed. Right? You take over, Gary. Go.
Yeah. So what you got there is after Frank died, his widow Gail managed the estate and managed what was called the vault.
Is Gail the mother of Dweezil, or
Yes. Gail,
okay.
Yeah. So Gail is the mother of all 4 children. wife of Frank, and Gail recently passed away. And Dweezil had already started getting a strained relationship with his mom on the business side. Can't really, because everything that has been published has been very professional, I like to say. So I can't comment on how they were personally, but on the business side, Dweezil was like, I need money to do this tour. I need to pay these musicians. Dweezil had taken over the role as Frank, as, I have to pay the musicians to play the music every week at a different venue. And he wasn't getting the money from the Frank Zappa estate. And eventually what happened was, unfortunately, his mom fell ill and she passed away. In the will, it divided the estate up, with the majority going to his brother Amit and Diva, and with like a 30% share each. And then Dweezil and his sister Moon each got a 20% stake for whatever reason. So Dweezil and Moon are now like minor partners in this estate. So he went to his brother Amit. It's like, Amit, you owe me money for merchandising and stuff, like, because I worked my butt off for, at that point, it had been 10 years he had been touring, performing Frank's music. And he's like, I've been touring 10 years. I need money, to continue doing this. And, and a little bit something for myself, because, I've been putting a ton of work out for the estate, for the benefit of the state. And Amit, for whatever reason, using funny math or whatever, says, we don't have any money. He's like, what do you mean you don't have any money? I've been touring for 10 years. I've been selling your T-shirts. I've been selling everything. And that's when it blew up and got very public. And can't really say who's at fault, but, there's definitely something going on. And but one of the big things was like, it's like any one of us, Amit was saying that any one of us can go out and perform Frank's music. And then Dweezil's point was like, and it says, no offense, but none of you can play Dad's music. Frank is very technical, and he's done some very eclectic stuff with a ton of different instruments. And, Dweezil was the only one that ever tried to do it. And you can really tell, like, Dweezil, like, even his solo albums, his guitar work is amazing. And you can tell, like, his influences from, Eddie Van Halen and his dad, and, Joe Satriani and Steve Vai.
And let's not forget Don Johnson's Heartbeat. Remember, Dweezil Zappa played the guitar in that video, too.
Yeah, but I mean, so Dweezil's pissed. He wants to get paid, and I don't blame a guy. The guy works his ass off.
So is he able to tour and play that music, or is
they
it like...
just recently came to a settlement that's a private settlement, and Dweezil was on Jimmy Kimmel Live, and he's playing Frank's music going out to the commercials. And I'm like, oh, that, just so much he can play. But it's just, he was the band leader. He wasn't the musical guest. Musical guest was somebody popular at the moment. But like when you talk about music, like people are still making music. My cousin was in the band called the Fifth Estate in the 1960s. The band, my cousin has, he was in the 70s, he passed away, but they still make music. 1960s garage band music. These guys are making music, and there needs to be an outlet for all this stuff, because what prevents this music from being quote unquote commercial is the fact that nobody's playing it. If you can play it, you can produce it, you can get it out to an audience that grabs onto it and, puts their teeth into it, you have an audience. If everybody's like, well, the profit margin isn't there, that's what kills it, and these guys are artists, and this is how they express themselves. And I'm going to leave off that note.
So if you want to know more about Gary, he's really passionate about G.I. Joe, Frank Zappa, and music rights and the money that should be made to musicians, and so they can continue to go on.
Boy, you should have been around when Marvel wasn't paying the Kirby estate.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm still reading up on my comic history. Again, I didn't delve back into comics until about 2009 when a little TV show on AMC premiered, and then it says based on the graphic novels. I'm like, I know what graphic novels are. Those are comic books. And then it went down, and then I bitched at the owner of the local comic shop that John knows. I was like, why didn't you recommend me this awesome book? And he's like, well, you only came in and read G.I. Joe. And I'm like, fine, then show me your long box. And I bought his entire long box, and he hated it, because what I ended up doing was I took the long box, I kept all like the single ones, and then every other one I sold so I could buy. I backfilled the collection. My collection starts at issue 7.
John used to have the early issues.
Oh, The Walking Dead.
Well, that always irritated me on the beginning of the Walking Dead show, which I don't watch anymore, was the fact that it says based on the graphic novels.
Yeah, it's
based on a comic book. That pisses me off. It's like they're afraid. It's like they're afraid to say the word. Graphic novels. A graphic novel is like is the definition of a graphic novel is something that's put out in complete form that way.
It's an independent story,
right?
Not a series of collected.
Technically, if they wanted to say that, they could say trade paperback.
Right.
Yeah, like the death of Captain Marvel.
Right, but graphic novel, makes it sound more adult.
It's been they've stolen the graphic novel term and slapped it on something that it isn't.
Yeah,
and that's your publisher there trying to make something sound better than it actually is. Yeah. You can't say trade paperback. I think we've gone over this before.
Yeah. We'll get mad later. You know, we actually have
get
to.
really mad.
We can't get so mad anymore because we are scorching in on a 2-hour episode here. So we probably want to. We probably either want to make a 2-parter or we want to back it off a little bit. So.
Who wants a body massage?
So, Gary, did you have a good time on the show today?
Oh, this is awesome. I think there's a bottle of Jepson's Malort, though, with my name on it.
Oh, you know what? Are you going to do it?
I might as well. It's afternoon, so it's not a
It's
problem
afternoon,
anymore.
so we're gonna
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
we're gonna set up for Malort. Hold on, please. So, speaking about Malort, we're at the end of the show, and we had talked to Gary earlier. The show started, a bit earlier. We weren't sure if he was gonna do the shot that we've invited any guest who wants to be on our show on.
You can smell it first, too.
Oh yeah, get the bouquet. All right. So what we're gonna do is, Gary said, well, what did you say, Gary? You said. Gary said yes.
That was a good look.
Gary said yes. I'm gonna do the shot.
Mineral spirits.
Mineral spirits, exactly. So Gary is the first. Now we've had several people who have done the shot through the From the Hip course and all that stuff. But Gary is you're the first Pint Comics shot taker of Malort. So
first Pint Comics one.
You're the first one.
I'm the guy that brings in the ratings.
You're the ratings bringer. So I'm gonna lean back from the microphone. I'm gonna film this for our fans to see. I want Gary. This is what I want from you. Okay, I don't want. We had some guys on that gave a stoic response, and I'd like to believe that it was stoic compared to mine, because in mine, if you see, when I do show you the video of mine, I'm just a pussy. I had to stop from throwing up fire out of my eyeballs.
Cursed me about a million times.
Cursed him about a million times.
Funny.
And you'll see in the video, as he takes another shot while taunting me.
I will definitely not do my best Snake Eyes impression while drinking the Malort.
So I'm now going to back away from the microphone. I'm going to take video of you guys, and I want to move away from the microphone. All right, guys. So here we go. So what I want you to do is I want you to say, Malort, take the shot, and then say, I'll have another.
You do that, not me.
Go ahead, guys.
Okay, Malort.
Oh, yeah. Now lean into the microphone, move the microphone over, John, and now give us a description of what's happening to you.
Well, it's kind of good going in, and it's when you swallow. Like, I still taste it on my tongue. It's tingly.
That's not going to end for a while.
My tongue is all tingly.
You choosing water as a chaser was just foolish, but I didn't want to have to tell you that.
You should try it with Coca-Cola. It tastes great.
Yeah.
Oh God.
All right, I'm gonna.
Now it's coming on. Yeah. Oh yeah. It makes me want to spit. Yeah, I want to spit and hawk a loogie. Oh God. But I wouldn't say it's bad as you guys made it out. Like, I expect it to taste like gasoline.
Give it another 5 or 8 minutes.
Out of a 1985, Dodge Ram pick-em-up truck. It's been sitting in the field for 7 years.
Now you're part of an elite.
But I need an exhaust manifold, and I had to buy the whole truck for the exhaust manifold. Oh God, it's getting worse.
Yeah. See. Yeah.
The saliva.
Yeah. It's now in you. It's in you, Gary.
My wife's gonna be like, "What the f?"
Do you want to give a description of the actual?
It keeps coming back.
Would you describe it as the bottom row of the paint aisle in Home Depot? Is that how you describe it?
Well, it's definitely paint thinner.
Oh, here goes John.
So we are in the right department of Walmart. Oh man.
And here's John, who poured me a smaller shot, which I refused to take.
He's pussing out.
I'm totally a pussy.
This is a quarter of a half shot.
And John's going to enjoy another one. Yeah. Willingly. Gary just looked at you like a disappointed mother.
I don't know if it's enjoying it, but it's certainly drinking it.
Oh, terrible. Terrible.
And the lovely plastic shot glasses. Pick your poison.
Gary, you look stunned. Are you okay?
No, I'm good. It's just God, this is gonna be in my mouth all day.
Yeah, no, it'll about 2 hours from now you'll be okay.
Oh, good, 2 hours.
Yeah,
great.
about 2 hours you'll snap out of it.
You'll taste it again tomorrow. Yes, you will.
Yeah.
Well, unless you brush your teeth tonight, which you'll taste it after you.
It's phantom taste. It's like a NAM flashback. It's gonna hit you like tomorrow when you're like at work. You're all of a sudden gonna hear. You're gonna go diving under a desk somewhere.
I think was it Vinny that said he had to throw his toothbrush away because
I think
tasted
so.
like
I think so. Yeah, if you use toothpaste like say like the Toms of Maine, you're gonna need the Listerine. It's not gonna fucking do it. You need the stuff with the harsh chemicals.
Good. Thank you for the advice.
Yeah, don't go with like the kid's strawberry toothpaste because your kid's sitting around. Yeah, I'm just brushing my teeth with that. You need something that can get through and cut that flavor out of your head.
So on the way back home, I'll stop at Big Lots and pick up like a 10-pack of toothbrushes.
Go through the Walgreens drive-thru, and instead of getting a fucking prescription fill, just ask them for like, do you have Listerine? No, not Lister Mint, the yellow shit that my grandfather used to do that tastes like burned rubber, and that will kill anything that's in your mouth.
Castor oil.
Castor oil. So we had a wonderful show. We had a great time having you on, Gary, and I'm really happy that you did the Malort challenge.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime.
I think it'll be fun, one of those weeks when we don't have an actual named guest, we can have Gary back on the radio program where we don't swear.
Absolutely, yeah. Would you like to be on the radio program?
Maybe. I just have to check with my schedule.
There you go. Check your schedule, and what we'll do is we have to check with our bosses there. Here we can have anybody we want. We can have Satan and Hitler on this show, but on the radio show, we've got to ask permission. And by the way, next week's show, Satan and Hitler, everybody.
Yeah, me and John.
Yeah. So until then, Gary, do you know what we say at the every show? Have you paid attention?
Yes, I do pay attention, but no, I can't remember because the Malort's still going in my mouth.
Yeah, the Malort fucked you up. Well, what we say is see ya. So, John?
See ya.
Gary?
See ya.
See ya.